Good morning. TGIF. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch. It is, of course, me, Mitch. And let's all drink it if we got it. Here it is. Oh, one more. How's everybody this morning? Of course. Everything starts to itch. Itching must be caused by live streaming. I can't think of any other correlation. Perhaps we need to do a randomized controlled trial. Wow. Well, I finally got it done yesterday. I finally got my tooth fixed. Unbelievable, the technology that they have these days. I went in to my dentist. My appointment was at 1:15. I walked out with a perfectly fitting crown at 3:15. 2 hours, start to finish. Not 3 trips to the dentist like it used to be. Fittings, temporaries, grinding, carbon paper, adjusting the bite, none of that anymore. You go there, they stick a scanner in your mouth. It takes pictures of your tooth. They have software that assembles it all in 3D. They have 3D printing at a milling machine that actually makes the tooth from the software. No more of filling your mouth full of that goop to take impressions and make those plaster casts of your teeth. 2 hours. Unbelievable. And I don't know if I could show it to you or not, but let's see. Right, that tooth right there. Yeah. Unbelievable. And once they cement the stupid thing in, I said to him, do I need to chew on the other side? He said, no. He says, you could eat with it right now. So it is incredible. Not cheap. Not cheap. But it's so good to have that fixed. I've been 5 weeks or so with it. Unfortunately, it didn't bother me. Unfortunately, the tooth was sound enough where I didn't have a problem with it, where it had to be removed, and I'd have to think about implants. I don't want to have to think about that. So I got that out of the way. So between my walk yesterday morning, which was taxing, the trip to the dentist and all that, I'm paying the price for it today, my friends. I'm really dragging here this morning. And even though I got sleep, I severely overdid it yesterday. So today is going to be a day of rest. So anyway, it's good to see all of you. I made some show notes for this morning. Nothing major. Let me see what I got here. First and foremost, you know it. You love it. I want to post my Buy Me a Coffee link in the chat. Earmark that towards help with dental expenses, if you must. Much appreciated. Okay, enough of that. I created, I don't think I told you about this last time, but I created a playlist on my channel. You'll see if you go to the homepage of my channel, which is youtube.com/OldGuyCarnivore or /C/OldGuy. Anyway, there'll be a playlist 2 or 3 down from the top that says stroke-related stuff. And I think there's 15 videos I've made that talk about the stroke and the recovery in hospitals and everything else. And they're all in there in the order that they were released. In making that playlist, I went back and watched the first few minutes of the first video, the one that got all the views, that said, well, I'm having a stroke. And I guess when things change just a little every day, you don't really notice the monumental change that I noticed when I actually went back and watched the first few minutes of that video when I came out of the closet and told everybody I had a stroke. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I know most of you have watched those videos, so there's no need, but I did make a playlist. So if new people who have been stroke victims themselves, anybody that might benefit from the way I'm handling this recovery, the playlist is there. Enjoy it if you want to. Going to be live again Sunday morning. So we're 3 days a week now. We're Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. Now, I'll pre-warn you, although it shouldn't make it much difference, is my housekeeper couldn't come yesterday on Thursday when she normally comes. And she came today, and she's busy cleaning my house, doing my laundry, making the bed, doing stuff that she does for me once a week. So if you hear a clang or a bang or a little bit of noise, she's going to try to be quiet. But I told her, don't worry about it. You're among friends. That's fine. That's fine. So, and I have a plumber coming after this live stream to finally get my shower head fixed in my bathroom. So it's going to be a banner day. Mitch is going to spend most of it relaxing, just taking a day off and take my own advice for a change. I had said last time that I had a video of Ancel Keys from 1991, when he was 80. He was born in 1904, so in 91 he would have been 85 years old. 87 years. So 4 to 91, 87 years old. He lived to be 100. I said I was going to put that in the show notes, and I forgot. I'll put it in the show notes today. But what I want to do is I want to, let me see if I can get it up here. Let's give you a little preview, a little preview of what he looked like at that age, because we're used to just seeing him. We're used to seeing old Ancel in the that Time magazine cover where he was much younger.
Fortunately, a friend of mine, Ralph Rosen, had been appointed as the director of the Hastings State Hospital, and I talked to him about this.
A lot of people who've watched this video say it almost needs captions because he mumbles his way through it. So good old Ancel. There's something that a few of my viewers pointed out to me. One of them sent me this video. Another one pointed out a very interesting fact. Because the vegetarians, the vegans, the anti-meat eating crowd is constantly, whenever the name Ancel Keys comes up, throwing in our face the fact that he lived to be 100 years old. The presumption was he lived to be 100 years old following his own dietary advice. You know what they say about assuming anything. So I did a little digging because this was told to me by a viewer of mine in an email. And he said, what they don't tell you, and I hadn't heard it either, the last 37 years of his life, he lived in Italy. He lived in Italy and ate a Mediterranean diet, not the standard American diet that resulted from all of his work. Could it be that he knew? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's. Well, I got that stupid. She's going to be going inside and out. I need to turn off the motion sensor on my front door. If you'll excuse me 1 second, I thought I had turned off anything that was going to make noise, but I didn't. So let's see. Oh, right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll just turn the volume on the phone down. All right. Sorry. But I already told you about my housekeeper. So anyway, old Ancel, 37 years before he died, which would have made him in his late 60s, 10 years younger than me, moved to Italy and ate a very healthy Mediterranean diet full of meat, eggs, cheese, fish, and some real vegetables, but no processed food. So if anybody can credit Ancel Keys or credit his longevity to his dietary advice about cholesterol and heart disease, he didn't practice it. Now, Ancel Keys was only concerned about eating red meat and dietary cholesterol. But if he ate eggs, if he ate all these other foods, he was getting all of that with a Mediterranean diet. And a Mediterranean diet is not a bad diet. And the reason is the place where he lived in Italy was like out in the sticks. If he ate an egg, it was from a truly pasture-raised chicken. Back in those days, the food was better, not polluted, raised in soil that had the proper nutrients not raped out of it. So yes, Ancel Keys lived to be 100 years old, and his wife lived to be 97, eating a diet much closer to the carnivore diet than what these vegans or vegetarians are pushing on everybody as a healthy diet. I thought you'd be interested to know that. I think I may make a video and talk about that, showcase some of the quotes and sections in this particular video of him. But I haven't done it yet, but I'll try to remember to put that in the chat, in the show notes of today's video, should you want to take a look at it. Okay. Wow. That blew 15 minutes real quick. And you guys are chatting up a storm, so let me go back. Wow. It's a long way back to the beginning here in my chat. And yes, I did it. I pushed the wrong button again. Sorry, folks. I tried to get up to the beginning of the chat, and in that one move, I think that I did away with the entire entirety of the early chat, but I should have it in this one. First one in last night was, I can't put it on the screen now, I'll just read it. Francine Bourgeois, 5:45 p.m. Sandy Blythe says, see you in the morning at 6 p.m. Laurie's Carnivore Story 604. Mandy Beddoes is here. Michael Pregler was here last night. Nikki W. Hine, Nikki Richard Williams said good morning, but it was last night at 7:30. Snowsea, recognize that. Hello, Snowsea said hi, Mitch at 7:30 p.m. last night. Retired Rick was here. First of the Insomniacs, Lady June. Overslept at 1:45 a.m. Are you, June, are you in Australia or someplace like that? At any rate, she said, good morning. Feral Grandma was here at 1:45. 2 o'clock in the morning, Thomas. 2:22, Thomas, Target Prime Rib was here. And the first person to get some sleep was Wayne Herman. And Wayne Herman chimed in at 5:47. At 7 p.m., Patty Molden. At 8 p.m., Terry Sue joined us. 8 p.m., Rick in Miami, Charger Mopar. I don't know how many of you saw Rick on Kelsey's live stream the other morning. Kiltz wasn't there, but Nelson Vasquez did a very nice job. Rick's a very interesting guy, and he's got quite a story. If you haven't seen that, because a lot of people haven't, because it happens at 5 o'clock in the morning, watch the replay. Rick, I enjoyed it. I watched the replay. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. It's fascinating. You did a great job. You did a great job on that show. Kudos. Kudos. And Rick chimed in at 8:14 and said, good morning, Quackers. And we got the backstory of the duck connection. It's fascinating. Rick has been carnivore for 41 years. And that short runt of a kid that got picked on way back in elementary school, evidently, started to eat meat, grew to be 6'6" tall. Wow. Wow. Terry Sue chimed in, 8:17. Can I go back in this chat to 8:17? Let's see. I could go back. No, I can't go back right after 9 o'clock, so I'll have to announce the winner without putting it on the screen. Tanya Kitchen Witch came in at 8:30. How you doing? Thomas Target Prime Ribs Movie 420. Chanel Sobaski. Good morning, Mitch. She says. Terry Sue. Barry Simon. Hi, Barry. How you doing? Jeff Graham is here. Good morning. We are up to 9 o'clock when Jemmett chimed in. Carnivore Police. Minute after 9. Terry Sue, Jemmett. Now everybody's talking to each other, so there's a lot of repeats. Jeff Johnson, the name you know. I'm going to get that clip. I've been meaning to do it. That clip from the Eddie Murphy movie, The Distinguished Gentleman, where he runs, and you've seen the movie, where he runs for Congress on the name recognition, because the guy who had been elected got booted out of office because he had an affair. He got shamed out of office, and they had to fill the seat. His name was Jeff Johnson. And Eddie Murphy ran a campaign based on the name you know. That's why I always say that, in case you don't know that. Jeff Johnson, the name you know. And he actually got himself elected to Congress on the name recognition. So every time I see the name Jeff Johnson, I say, the name you know. I have to play that clip of Eddie Murphy driving around in his ratty old car with the megaphone on top and the microphone in his hand, saying, vote for Jeff Johnson, the name you know. It's great. It's great. I'll find it. And Jeff says, hello, everyone. Anyone recommend any good books on carnivore that they've read? Well, we'll see. We'll see. And John Schaefer, older than Mitch-Carnivore here, he says, good morning, all you Mitches. Well, John, congratulations. It always thrills me to know that somebody out there is older than I am. We're up to 9:27, and everybody's starting to really hit it. Joanne T, good morning. Aaron, Booby Goat chimed in, 9:28. Terry Sue says the pedal is to the metal. Laurie's Carnivore Story, 9:28 chimed in. And we're getting close to the bell. Close to the bell. John Schaefer, hey, you're not that much older than me. 78 and a half years old. You're a half a year older than me. You old fart, you. And a 10.8 month carnivore. Already reversed his type 2 diabetes to 5 A1C 5.2. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Terrific news. My 78th birthday is in less than 2 weeks. It's May the 7th. We're going to have a happy birthday live stream. May the 7th. 78th. I can't believe it. And I'm happy that I made it to 78. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. The winner today, once again, I don't know how you do it. Gary from No Slow. I don't know how you do it. I honestly don't know. You have, percentage-wise, you have hit the 9:30 bell more often than just about anybody. I got to turn that thing. I got to turn my notifications off. So let me do that real quick so this thing stops making noise. If I get a buy me a coffee or something, I'm probably going to miss it because my phone won't go ding. But my cleaning girl has to go in and out, and that makes, she keeps setting off the Ring doorbell motion sensor, which I rely on to let me know when somebody is at the front door delivering a package, something like that. It's really a handy gadget. Not bad for security either. So at any rate, we got down to the bell. Gary No Slow was the first, and I go back to the chat because I had to reload my StreamYard software, and it only started at 9:35, showing me what chats had come in. I don't know what it is that I do wrong. Thought I'd figured it out. That causes me, maybe I clicked the wrong mouse button to dump out of my streaming software. But it's a small price to pay, being able to do this and be live, even though I pretty much doing it one-handed. Or you may have noticed that I pushed the music button with my right hand this morning, but it's still a stretch. It's still a stretch. What's really interesting is that anybody that reaches out to shake hands with me, I couldn't raise my hand high enough to shake hands. Now, I can do that. It's these little signs of improvement. And that's all shoulder muscles that are so encouraging. And that walk yesterday, even though I overdid it a little, I ended up being on my feet, standing there behind that walker. I never sat down for about 45 minutes, which is the longest I've been on my feet since I had the stroke, because my neighbors were cornering me, and it was nice. But we stood and talked. I edited that out of the video because some of it was private and boring to you. But it was about 45 minutes of being on my feet. And then later in the day, having to trek all the way to Orlando. Of course, I rooted in my son's truck, but sit in the dentist chair. By the time I got home last night, I was shot, and I'm feeling it this morning. Put a QQQ if you have a question for me or a comment or something that you feel is relevant and you'd like to hear me talk about. Put some capital Q's in the comments so I see them, and I'll try to pick them out. I'm going to limit this to about an hour today, so we'll finish about 10:30. I've got a handyman plumber coming over, and I've got to talk to him about fixing something for me. It's always something's got to be done that I used to do myself that I can't do now. I consider that a temporary situation, but I definitely need more help around the house, keeping things up that I used to. Jeff Johnson, there we go. You can put it up on the screen now. Smart Mitch, work hard, rest and recover. Do it again. Yep. Rinse and repeat. B-Man is here. Hiya, B-Man. How you doing, Steven? Hiya, Steven. I haven't seen you in a while. Albeck, how are you? Put some questions in and I'll try to find them. Dixie Scott is here. Hiya, Dixie. How you doing? And evidently I didn't see it yet. Tuka's here. 30am Carnivore. Hiya, Tuka. Good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you. Got some long chats here. We're talking about dentistry. Yes, I guess you might well be. Aaron says it was a silver filling, and 3 years later, I cracked the same tooth with a dry bit. I think what cracked my tooth was a pork rind. You know, when you eat pork rinds, sometimes you get just rock hard little pieces of them. I think my son brought me some pork rinds when I was in rehab, just so I could eat something that I knew wasn't going to kill me. And that's when the tooth broke. I was offered the option, Aaron, on of repairing this tooth with a bigger filling or an onlay. It would have saved me some money, but this guy has been my dentist for 10 years now. He bought the practice that my best friend in the world, the dentist, owned, which is why I still go back to Orlando. People say, why do you go to Orlando, Mitch? Because his name was Stan. My best friend in the world. You know, most men have a buddy like that. Somebody you've known for a long time. Somebody who, if you had to describe your relationship, you'd say consigliere, advisor. Stan was a brilliant man, but there were very few people that he would open up to, and I was one of them, and maybe the main one. And I was the same with him. He was the kind of friend that you had no secrets from, that you shared your greatest concerns, you went to for advice. And he was a dentist, and a great dentist too. The whole time I went to Stan, through implants, gold crowns, fixing all of the stupid dental work that my childhood dentist did, when back then you had a cavity in about every tooth because you were eating so much sugar and junk. And this dentist, as they practiced back in those days, used to drill a little extra when they drilled out the decayed, but just to make sure they got it. Well, they ended up leaving the walls, and Aaron, I'm sure this is what happened to you. They ended up leaving teeth with very thin walls left. And as we get older, we keep chewing on these things, and we try to eat things as hard as a rock every once in a while. Those thin walls break, and that happened to almost every tooth in my head over my lifetime. I've got a mouthful of crowns now. So I decided it costs a little more, but I'm going to go with the crown because I won't have to deal with it again, hopefully. So I let him do the crown yesterday, but that's the way they used to practice dentistry. Kind of like the way they deal with cancer today, and they talk about margins, where they cut out something, they have to cut certain margins. When I had this melanoma removed from my nose, I had to take most of the skin off my nose to get a good margin. At any rate, I was talking yesterday about having this on my bucket list. I've had things on my bucket list, it seems, that make it not the best bucket list. Brain surgery, skin cancer, stroke. God, I'm afraid to look, see what's next. Oh, here's a question. Oh, yeah, this name. Alla Cran Cognac. Wow, 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 wow. Easy for me to say. Question. So it's either Alec Cognac or Alla Cran Cognac. Hard to say. Spaces are useful in situations like this. Glad to see you're doing well. Been busy really recently with my new job. I might miss this question already. What is your blood pressure prior to the stroke? Have you ever had a CAC test? Okay, I'll be happy to answer that for you. No, I have not had a CAC test, nor do I want one, nor do I want to know. Because there's nothing I can do about it more than what I'm already doing. That's the key. If I thought there was something I could do that was guaranteed to lower my calcium, which I'm sure I have plenty of, I'm not a fool. Years and years and years of bad eating. But I don't want to know. If I'm minutes away from death, I don't want to know. I just want it to hit me. Because if you know, you're constantly going around with a thought in your head, I'm going to keel over at any minute because those test results were so bad. I want to live in ignorant bliss. Unless it's something I could fix, then I would attack it with every fiber of my being. Some people think that's a cowardly thing. I tell them, if I had the power to tell you the exact moment that you're going to die, would you want to know? They're shocked by that question. The answer universally is hell no. Why would I want to live with a countdown like that? And that's the same reason certain tests, I just don't want to know, because there's nothing I can do about it except anticipate disaster, which is very stressful, and I'm better off not having that stress. This bullshit about having to know your numbers and keep up with them is not normal for any living thing. And it's certainly not normal for human beings unless it actually can be something that is fixed. So no, I don't want to know what my CAC score is. Even if I had a test, I wouldn't want them to tell me the results. I don't want to know what some of my blood test numbers are. But I know because I see them every year at the VA. I'm living a lifestyle that I'm convinced, this is the important part, is the best we have in our power to do. There's nothing I could do better for my health, I think, going forward, especially at my age, than what I'm doing. So why agonize over something I have no power to fix? That's my logic, and it enables me to live with less stress and less worry. I just don't want to know. People tell me I'm foolish. Okay, I'm foolish. I'm a happy fool. And even after this stroke, which I'm convinced was not caused by the carnivore diet, eating too much fat, I credit my what seems to be an incredible recovery so far to the fact that I am eating a carnivore diet, rich in fat. My cholesterol is high, which is what my brain needs to repair itself. And the evidence is there that it's working. In the hospital, they kept coming at me, preaching doom. I didn't want to know it. I didn't want to talk to them. It is what it is. There's nothing they can do to fix it. Why talk to them? There's nothing in their power that they can do except throw poisonous drugs at me, which do nothing but create new problems with the inability to solve the old one. They told me I had a blockage somewhere in a capillary. Okay, I accept that. With my lifestyle for so many years, I can understand why. And I asked the doctors one simple question. I said, that drug that you want me to take, is that going to get rid of the blockage? Well, no. I said, then go to hell, go away. If you can't fix it, I'm already doing the best I can to not get any more of those things. But if you can't fix the one I already got, and you want to poison me in the process with drugs I don't need, I don't need you. Now, maybe that's an absolutely wrong attitude, but that's my attitude and how I look at it, because I'm the one that has to live with this stuff. And I'm glad you brought this up, because everybody asks, what's your CAC score? I don't care. And I'm in great company. Ask Anthony Chafee or Sean Baker what their CAC score is. I guarantee you, they don't know either. Anybody that has a logical mind and is convinced that carnivore is his best shot at living a long, healthy life, no guarantees, but at least the best shot, isn't going to be worried about what their numbers are. And that seems to be among the main carnivore influencer doctors, the mindset. It is what it is. Don't worry about it unless there's a way to fix it. And believe me, when you get all plaqued up and calciumed up, there's really no way to fix it. And even the carnivore doctors will tell you that it's very rare for somebody's calcium score to go down, although it's happened on rare occasions. How do we know why? Maybe margin of error in the test? You don't know. But universally, it's accepted that it does not clear arteries. So anytime you see any YouTube video that claims to have the magic cure, clean out your arteries, fraud. It doesn't exist. Okay, that was the first part of the question. The second part of the question was, what was my blood pressure prior to the stroke? My blood pressure prior to my stroke was 115/65. How do I know that? Right over there, I have a blood pressure machine that about once every 3 or 4 days, maybe once a week, I take my blood pressure. I lied. 116/66, heart rate of 62. my pulse ox, and I know this because when my therapist comes, physical therapist, comes once a week now, he always takes my blood pressure and measures my pulse oxygen, even though my pulse ox is 99, which is about as good as it gets. That means everything's working, the heart's beating, the blood's circulating, the lungs are working, they're absorbing oxygen, the oxygen's getting into the blood because my pulse ox is 99 and it's consistent at 99. That's how I know that cigar puffing is not damaging my lungs, because at 78, my lungs are working just as good as a 20-year-old. I don't care what people say. I have reasons for everything I do, but they're my reasons. And I'm not advocating you do them. Just consider what I do, and I try to tell you why. This 116, right, 116, can you see it? Come on. Oh. All right, I'm going to turn off the bright light on my face so you can see this. Well, now that I have relegated to oblivion. There it is. 116/66, pulse rate 62. That is the average of the last 100 readings that I took with my blood pressure machine. That hasn't changed in months, because that's still the average of my blood pressure. Oh, it may change 1 point up or down, but 116. Now, my blood pressure, I used to have hypertension before carnivore. I had hypertension so bad that they had me on 2, not 1, but 2 medications. And I never could get it down. Part of the problem was they don't know how to take blood pressures at the doctor's office, and I have white coat syndrome, and they use these automatic machines as opposed to actually using something called a sphygmomanometer, easy for me to say, where they pump it up manually and listen for your pulse with a stethoscope. When I went carnivore, my blood pressure normalized. I got off the blood pressure medication. I stopped letting them take my blood pressure when I was in any situation where it wasn't being taken appropriately, where I wasn't relaxed, where I wasn't sitting correctly. Because if you're going to compare it to the last time you took your blood pressure, it has to be in the same conditions. And walking into a doctor's office in pain or having a stroke and having them take your blood pressure in the emergency room while your body is in chaos, and then they tell you your blood pressure is 180/110, and then they start cramming you full of beta blockers and things which ruin you. Don't take those numbers as valid, but that's what they keep doing to you. They want to get you on those drugs. Those drugs had side effects. They had me on one drug, I think it was lisinopril. One of the major side effects of lisinopril is a dry, hacking cough. I'm running around taking this drug, coughing my brains out, and everybody's telling me to quit cigars. And I'm saying, it's not the cigars. I've been smoking cigars for 50 years. I never had a cough like this. Went back to the doctor. Why am I coughing so much? Oh, it's probably the lisinopril. Here's a prescription for losartan instead. And the cough went away. Effing doctors. Sorry. Many of you know what I'm talking about. I'm tired of being a guinea pig. So I decided, take everything into my own hands and start with nutrition. And I went from keto to carnivore, and everything got better. My blood pressure went down to normal, and it is normal today. And 2 days ago, 2 days ago when Patrick, my physical therapist, came in and took my blood pressure, I had already been up. I had already been walking around and active. It wasn't taken at the same time as I usually do in the morning, relaxed, quiet, calm, peaceful. And my blood pressure was, this week, was 112 over 60 something. And last week it was 120 over 60 something. Falling right in line with my average that the machine says. And interestingly enough, that happens to be the average of the last 300 readings, not 100, because the way my machine is set, every time you say read my blood pressure, it goes through 3. It reads 3 blood pressures with about 15 seconds in between them, and then averages the 3. So that's 100 averages of a total of 300 blood pressures, which is perfect. And yet every time I go to the doctor, every time I have to go to the emergency room, they ring alarm bells. I'm going to stroke out. Well, I did stroke out. But the one thing that they didn't seem to think about very much was that you're not going to have an ischemic stroke from high blood pressure. You're going to have a hemorrhagic stroke. The difference is the difference between one of them is caused by a clot and the other is caused by a burst blood vessel. The burst blood vessel is caused by excessive hypertension. The clot is caused by something else entirely. Yet these people, they want to prescribe treatment and not even know what the real cause was. It is scary, scary, scary. That's why I say escape if you find yourself. There's times when there's no way you're not going to find yourself in a hospital or an emergency room. Start plotting your escape and your revolution as soon as you can. As soon as you can. Tuka says to me, how am I, boss? Tuka, other than the stroke recovery and all the things that I have to consider that are caused by that stroke I had, if I was any better, it'd be illegal. I still feel that way and have that attitude. And I love when you ask me that question. Noso says, Mitch, how well did your enunciation training work after the Novocaine shot? Now that's funny. My dentist, a young guy, he has more gray hair in his beard than my son does, but he's probably in his late 30s or early. No, he's got to be in his early 40s. But he's a healthy-looking, thin guy with a head of black curly hair. Nice guy. Found out yesterday he grew up on a farm, eating like eggs from his own chicken. He's in great shape. He eats plenty of meat. He's not a carnivore, but he eats a healthy diet. And he doesn't eat sugar a lot. He's the way we should be. He's more, I would say, Mediterranean type diet. He's still too young to see what the effects might be of his diet, but it's a good diet compared to most. And he's fascinated. And we talk every time I go in there about my theories and the things I preach about carnivore. And because we really spent at least, I would say, 45 minutes of waiting time, and he wasn't busy, he sat with me most of those 2 hours, and I lectured. I lectured him, and I told him all about Ancel Keys, and I told him about all the things, and he wasn't aware of any of this. And I talked to him about biochemistry and cellular biology and cellular respiration and all of the things, all while numbed out under Novocaine. And I think I did a pretty good job of enunciating it clearly, even with the Novocaine. The Novocaine finally wore off just about the time we pulled back into my driveway over here in Orlando. So it was a great day, and my dentist had got the education of his life, and virtually everything I told him, he wasn't aware of, especially about how we got where we are today. Okay. Let me get rid of that on the screen. Scott Elliott says, good morning. Rick, no sympathy, Rick. Got attacked by my cat. No sympathy. I've heard that before from you. Terry Sue says, I posted the Ancel video to Facebook. Okay. Is that my Ancel Keys or the one that I'm going to put in the description today? Okay, I'm way behind in the chat. 9:40, 30 minutes. Seems to be normal for me. Normal for me. Tanya, I see. Kitchen Witch is here. Erin, everybody's chatting away. I'm going to look for some more questions. I got about 10 minutes left. Oh, it's good to get that tooth fixed, though. You know what happens when you have a tooth that's missing? The teeth that oppose it will actually start to loosen up a little bit because there's nothing opposing it. After a while, so I was starting, the tooth that opposed the one that was broken, when I chewed on that side, it started to hurt a little bit. But I knew what was causing it. The tooth was moving around. Anyway, he's better now. Today it doesn't hurt. So it's being pushed appropriately back where it belongs. But teeth move. That's the theory behind putting braces on teeth. When you apply pressure to teeth, they'll move in that direction. Just a little observation. Here we have somebody I don't recognize. Flora Fogelman. Flora, good morning. First time here. See, I told you I didn't recognize you. What are you doing better? Thank you, Flora. Fogelman, I like that. I like that name. Flora Fogelman. That's it. I guess you bet there aren't too many of them in the world. Good to see you. And thanks for coming in. Question. And this is where I went black. And everybody commented, oh no. It's okay, Mitch. Yeah, that one didn't last long. I'm getting, and now I have my notebook set up next to me. Right here, and I can see the Rumble feed, but I also have a window open, whereas if this whole computer of mine crashes, it will take me probably a minute to log back into StreamYard from the notebook and come back on live. So I'm anticipating some of these technical problems, most of them caused by me and my clumsy left hand on the mouse. And I see over in Rumble we have Rod Weeder is in there and No Slow. Good morning, guys. Thank you for keeping Rumble alive. I don't know if it's doing me any good, but I keep streaming it to Rumble anyway. Let's see. Look at the chat. Everybody's talking about working out. A lot of chatting going on. I encourage that. I'd love to see it. Thomas says, Mitch loves you, Rick. Yes. Yeah, I like Rick. And I know Rick has a live stream on Saturday morning, and I'm trying not to compete with him. on Saturday morning. This is why I'm doing Friday and Sunday now. It may be that when I go back to a full schedule of morning coffees with Mitch, that I will take 1 day a week off and make that Saturday. Jeff Johnson chimed in and reminded me that's the name you know. I love you guys. Thomas, did you see me on Kilts? Thomas, yes, I did. I thought I had already commented on that in a previous live stream. Very impressive, man. What a story. I told you, Thomas, I had no idea that you'd been through the hell that you'd been through. But yes, I did. I did see you. CB Carmack chimed in. How you doing in court right now, trying to make my appearance to testify? Your Honor, I'm here to testify. Yes, that's probably, if you're a sheriff or a policeman, that's probably your least favorite thing to, well, maybe it is your favorite thing to do. You get to sit down in a courtroom for a while. Rick says he'll be 57, so I got you by 20 years. Youngster. Well, I knew you had to be in your 50s somehow, because if you were a carnivore for 41 years, I doubt that you started when you were 10. So you look good. You look good for 57, Rick. Any more questions? All right, I'm going to take the last few minutes here and just race to the finish line. And I'm not going. All I'm looking for is QQQ. Not reading anything. I want to try to make sure that I didn't miss any of the questions. Well, see how easy it is to see him? Francine puts in there 37 Qs. Can you explain what is cultured water and its importance? No. No, I can't. No, I can't, Francine. I have no idea. I know that they do lots of things to water. And they give it different names. ERED, cultured water. One finger typing and one finger mouth. Cultured water typically refers to water kefir. Okay. A fermented beverage made by fermenting sugar water with water kefir grains. These grains are live colonies of bacteria and yeast that produce a lightly carbonated, probiotic-rich drink. Water kefir is often described as a refreshing, fizzy drink with a tart, slightly sweet taste. Now, I know everything about what cultured water is. Thank you, Dr. Google. It goes on. And they answer other questions. Is fermented water good for you? Is distilled water unchlorinated water? Is it safe to drink fermented water? Okay. Not something I'm likely to do. Anytime anybody labels anything as a probiotic, I stay away from it. That may sound funny, but that's not the trendy thing to do. Prebiotic, probiotic, postbiotic. That all messes with the balance of the different strains of bacteria in different microbiomes all over your body, in your mouth, in your gut. Basically, the ones that prosper are the ones where there's the food that they eat exists in abundance. The ones that minimize are the ones where there's not much food for them. It's not up to us to tell those bacteria which ones get our vote and which ones we want to go away. That all happens by natural selection in there, whatever environment we make for those bacteria to live in. If we eat a lot of sugar and a lot of fiber, way down in our gut, the waste from all that provides a certain environment for a certain strain of bacteria to live. The bacteria then munch on this stuff and expel a substance, a chemical, or some other thing, which could either be a free fatty acid or maybe just gas. And we've all known that feeling. Eat enough beans. The bacteria will eat what's left of the bean and expel gas into your colon, and out it comes. Some more fragrant than others. My view on microbiome is, if you eat the stuff you're supposed to eat, the microbiome will take care of itself without any conscious thought or positive action on your part. And that's what I do, and I don't worry about it. And that's what all the animals on the planet do too. Whatever microbiome they have in their gut is the microbiome that exists because whatever they eat provides what those bacteria need. That is, provided the strain of bacteria dies out. To try to do anything to encourage the growth of a strain of bacteria in your gut because somebody else says it's good for you, especially a vegan, I don't buy into that. I think it's folly. So now that I know what this water is, I don't want any part of it. Cultured water. It's always something. There may be something to it. That's just my first take on it. Interesting question, though. Interesting question. Let's get back. I am at 10:08. Oh, wow, I'm still behind. But I'm looking for the cues. Thomas, what is your opinion on I never heard of that. I'm not a doctor. Clindamycin antibiotic. Well, I don't have an opinion, Thomas. Sorry. I'll read up on it, but I've never heard of it, so I have no opinion. Someday you'll tell me what exactly you're trying to find out about that particular antibiotic. I personally, I got to be pretty sick before I'm going to take an antibiotic. I don't believe in them. Yeah, penicillin is great, but they throw antibiotics at you for viral things. Flu, colds. You don't need antibiotics. We develop such immunity to these antibiotics that when we really need them to save our life, they don't work. So I'm very cautious about that. The other thing they do is they're pretty like a flamethrower. We've got bacteria which are necessary for life living inside of us. Trillions of them. You take an antibiotic, you kill the good with the bad, and then you end up with a lot of bowel issues and other things because they completely wiped out, obliterated your gut microbiome. So that's got to be really compelling reason for me to take a course, which is usually 6 to 8 days, of antibiotics, kill wantonly all that carnage going on in my body, and then the recovery period while the correct strains of bacteria come back to life and rebuild the colonies. I don't want it. I try to stay away from that. I'd love to live in a world where we had much fewer doctors trying to figure out a way to make a living and coming up with all this shit that they think we should do. Mark Booth, hey Mark, how you doing? Says good morning. CB Carmex says good morning to Mark. Now let me get going down here, and Any last minute questions? $10.19. Here we have. Did your dentist know who Ancel was? No, never heard of him. I've yet to meet the healthcare professional in any field these days that has heard of Ancel Keys, unless they're 70, 80 years old. Why would they have? Or in the carnivore and keto community and watching YouTube videos to tell them. They don't know. Nobody knows the history of this, the real history. That's how it is with propaganda. A lie told often enough becomes accepted as truth over enough years. And then as the older people who do remember the truth die out, the truth fades away into oblivion, and there's a new paradigm of truth, which started out as somebody's propaganda 70, 80 years ago. That's where we are with the diet. And you can see by any attempt to fix it against the establishment, the medical establishment, and the money they make is usually futile. And the government now with RFK, who knows the problems and is going to be our savior, what is he attacking? Well, yeah, they talk about he's going to eat fried foods. They should be fried in animal fat, tallow. Seen any big changes yet? Maybe one or two restaurant chains, but you don't see them you don't see that stuff on the news, because the news is bought and paid for by the powers that be in the medical community that want to keep things exactly how they are, because they're very profitable now. They don't want us getting better. We are the grist for their mill. And if you don't know what that means, I'll give you a little homework assignment. Look up what the expression grist for the mill means. That's us. Coming down the home stretch. Question. Vanilla Bee. I don't know where the first name ends and the last name starts. Hello, Mitch. What is the first thing that you want to do when your balance completely returns? I just go back to normal. Going out for my walks. Start exercising more, build up the muscle that I've lost, because I have lost some muscle. Nothing. Yeah, I'm not planning a trip around the world or anything like that. Nothing dramatic. Dan Galasko, question. Just spent a week in a hospital on IV antibiotics for diver flare with abscess and perforation. Wow. They tried to blame carnivore. They put me on low fiber, low residue diet, which is what carnivore is. Yeah, they're ignorant. These people are ignorant. They may not be stupid, but they're ignorant. They've never been taught. They've never heard it. They've never been exposed to it. How are they to know the things that we know? They're not. I get mad at them, but I also understand. That's what happens when the system is what it is. So it's hard to hear. It's hard to talk to them because you sound like a raving lunatic. You put me in a conversation with a registered dietitian. If she doesn't pull her hair out and leave the room, she will leave the room saying, that guy is the most insane person I've ever talked to in my life. When I'm dead right and they're dead wrong, but you can't tell people that. So the best thing to do is simply don't talk to dietitians. Don't debate with dietitians. Don't debate with doctors. Don't debate with anybody. You will never change their minds. They are brainwashed. Unless you can send them to a 6-month rehab program and re-education program like they do with certain severe addicts, you don't stand a chance. You may as well try to change their religion or their political party. It's ideology. It is firmly entrenched. All you do by debating them is never win and frustrate yourself no end. I don't debate. I will lecture them, but I'm not interested in anything they have to say anymore. I've heard it all. Now, if I was a young man and hadn't heard it all, yeah, I'd be a little more open-minded. But after all these years and all the bullshit that I've heard, my ideology at this point is stronger than theirs in all things, both religion, politics, and certainly diet. And if I'm wrong, I die, like we all do. Who knows? Got to be realistic. Hey, Ellen's here. Hi, Ellen. Seems our microbiome is mostly determined by our environment. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good to see you, Ellen. Ellen's here saying good morning to everybody, and I'm trying to get to the end of the chat. And it's almost 1:45 now. So that's it. I did it. I did it. I did it. Yeah, I did it. How about that? Yes, end of the chat. So listen, my friends, thank you so much for coming today. I know I was all over the place, and that's the way it goes. I'm going to try to have a relaxing day from here on out, and look forward to Sunday morning, 9:30. I'll be back here. I'll be back, hopefully a little more well-rested, with a few more little advances in recovery and balance and range of motion. It seems slow to me, but when I look back at the videos I made 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, that's when I realize that compared to what I've seen other people recovering from something like this, I'm more and more convinced that this lifestyle is responsible for healing more than anything else. And I'm just going to keep doing it. And as a concession to the medical community, I will continue to take baby aspirin every day, because the theory behind thinning your blood a little bit is one that makes sense to me. And if it doesn't make common sense, I'm not doing it. Like they want me on beta blockers. For those of you that don't know, the way a beta blocker helps lower your blood pressure is by slowing down your heartbeat. Now, if you got 190 over 110 blood pressure with a pulse rate of 90 all the time, probably not a bad idea. But along comes Mitch with 116 over 66 blood pressure with a pulse rate of 62 in normal conditions. Not stroking out conditions, severe pain conditions, kidney stone conditions, or any other thing that might have taken me to a place where they want to measure my blood pressure, usually in an emergency, but in a normal, everyday setting. My resting pulse rate hovers around 60. That's very healthy. Long-distance runners, people in the best circulatory shape, can have pulse rates of 50, in the 40s. they can fully oxygenate their cells without the need for as much blood coursing through their veins. And I've been in that shape. And I'm in that shape now. And they want to put me on a beta blocker. And a couple times, and they prescribed it when I left rehab. That was one of the drugs they wanted me to continue to take, even though very often when they come in to dispense the meds at night, she would not give me the beta blocker because if my pulse was slower than 60, they were instructed not to give the beta blocker. Well, if I didn't need it then, I just don't need it. And my pulse rate is always low. So that's just another area where they keep throwing drugs at you and don't have any idea of what they're actually trying to fix. Most of the time, the problem they're trying to fix is not a problem at all, but just something that happened in a situation caused by distress, which is not a normal thing, and you don't have it every day. So I take the aspirin, and that's about it. At any rate, guys, I'm going to play a little happy music for you. You can take a minute and say goodbye to everybody in the chat. And we'll wrap this up for today. I had a good time today. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm glad to see that you all chat so much with each other. I read some of those old chats, and that's interesting. I don't know where you come up with the things to talk about. Rick, Charger Mobar says, have fun. See you tomorrow morning. So y'all will probably be there on Rick's live stream tomorrow morning. Terry Sue, thanks for showing up, Mitch. Brian Dish, take it easy. Dan Galasco saying goodbye. Lori's Carnivore. Story says eat meat. Aaron, Booby goes goodbye, everyone. Have a great day. I'll shimmy and sway yourselves out of here. Movie 420, have fun, Mitch. Terry Sue says goodbye. Wow, look at them all. Kitchen Witch, Tanya, Dan Gillespie, CB Carmack, take care, my friend. Testify away. Testify away. Stephen Albeck, have a good one, everyone. Laurie says, shovel off. Terry Sue, we love you, Mitch, and Mitch loves you all back. Tina, I never said hello, but I'll say goodbye. Tina Schweikerath, good to see you. Brian Fish, Tanya, that's what I was thinking. And that brings it to a close. So, my friends, as usual, it was great to see you all. For now, take the rest of the day off and eat a bunch of meat.